everyone, and welcome to today's video, which is about Shinto and archaeology. This was prompted by some news I came across recently. A sword had been discovered years ago and has just been confirmed by Japanese archaeologists to be connected with Daisen Kofun. Now, if you've watched my earlier videos, you'll remember that Kofun are these amazing keyhole-shaped burial mounds found all across Japan. It's extremely rare for them to be excavated, especially something like the Daisen Kofun, which is traditionally considered the tomb of Emperor Nintoku. It remains unclear how this artifact came to light, but for an artifact connected with this site to be identified at all is a very exciting and rare event. It also got me thinking about Shinto's relationship with archaeology, especially compared with our own approach in the UK. On a recent visit to the Natural History Museum in London, I saw Cheddar Man on display. Personally, I find displaying human remains unsettling. I feel they should be treated with more respect and dignity than that, and it struck me how different this is from Japan, where Shinto plays a role in how archaeology is conducted and how the dead are treated. Here in Britain, religion doesn't usually play a role in archaeology. We might debate ethics in academic circles, but most people don't really think of it as a religious issue. In Japan though, Shinto very much shapes the ethics of archaeology, and that's what I want to explore today. As I said, it's unusual for artifacts to come out of Kofun, but there have been a few major finds from officially sanctioned digs. One of the most striking is the serpent sword of Tomio Maruyama Kofun, an enormous sword nearly 2 meters long. Clearly, this wasn't meant for practical use, unless the people of the time were giants, and there's no DNA evidence for that. Instead, it seems to have been created as a spiritual or ritual object, buried with the deceased for symbolic purposes. Another famous discovery was a cache of mirrors linked to the legendary era of Empress Himiko, the woman who in Chinese records first unified the Japanese people. While we have no way of knowing that these mirrors belonged to her, records do describe mirrors being gifted to her from China. So, in the public's imagination, these artifacts have naturally become associated with her story. They also tie into larger debates about the origins of Japan's first unified state, as described both in archaeology and in the legends of the Kojiki. Not all Kofun, though, are uncovered through planned excavations. Some have been found by accident. For example, Funazuka Kofun was discovered during construction of a car park. Workmen suddenly realised they had broken into a chambered tomb. Quite a shock. It echoes the discovery of King Richard III's remains beneath a car park in Leicester here in the UK. In Japan though, such a discovery isn't just surprising, it's spiritually serious. Disturbing a sacred burial place is perceived as bringing misfortune, so procedures now exist for what to do if a Kofun is found by accident. Work stops immediately and the local shrine is contacted, and an emergency jichensai or ground purification ceremony is conducted to appease the spirits. So, what happens if archaeologists want to intentionally excavate a Kofun? Well, if it's an imperial Kofun, the answer is a simple no. These tombs are still managed by the Imperial Household Agency, kept pristine and only visited for shinji or maintenance rituals to renew and preserve their sacredness. For non-imperial Kofun, however, permission can sometimes be granted. In these cases, the local shrine must always be consulted, and permission from the kami is ritually sought before digging begins. Once permission is granted, and the general assumption is that it will be granted, jichinsi is held. This site purification ceremony is sometimes called a groundbreaking ritual. The priest offers prayers and offerings to the kami, explaining why the excavation is happening and reassuring the spirits that everything will be treated with respect before anything gets underway. Appeasing ancestral spirits is a key part of this. Separate prayers may be made to the kami of the land and, where applicable, to the spirits of the deceased as well. Throughout the dig, the shrine remains involved, especially when significant finds are uncovered. In Shinto thought, even objects can hold spirit. A sword, a mirror, or other artifact made with great care can be seen as having a soul of its own. For this reason, important finds are placed on purifying cloths and prayers are offered before removal. If human remains are uncovered, things change slightly. Shinto does not traditionally deal with funeral rites, so at this point the local shrine will usually call in a Buddhist temple for support, and Buddhist priests will come to perform the proper rituals for the deceased. I find this interesting because it shows the cooperative relationship between Shinto and Buddhism in Japan. Far from being rivals, as the two religions would be considered here in Britain, the two religions tend to work together to ensure respect for both the living and the dead. Once an excavation is complete, a final shukonsai, or spirit pacification ceremony, is held, along with a harai purification ceremony. This restores the site's sacredness and brings closure to the spirits and the community, restoring things to how they were before. For your interest, I've also included some pictures here to illustrate how these rituals work. Here we see Jichanzai, where a temporary altar is set up on site for the groundbreaking ceremony. We have a Shinji ritual as well, renewing the sacredness of the land. This particular Shinji ritual I thought was especially dramatic, with the use of fire as part of the rite. Shinzen offerings here are also being made, such as food and sake, and it's being presented to the kami. I also quite like the sacred origami in this picture as well. And then finally at the bottom, the harai purification, where the priest waves the onusa, the big sacred wands, to cleanse the site after the dig is finished. So for me, there are some key takeaways from this. Ethics and respect are at the centre of archaeology in Japan. Permission is sought from the kami before the ground is even broken. It might only be symbolic permission, but I think that permission is even symbolically sought is telling and very positive. The cooperation between Shinto and Buddhism ensures the dead are honoured with dignity. And as well as the human remains, even artefacts are often treated with reverence, seen as objects that can also embody spirit. Overall, I find this approach much healthier than our own habit of putting human remains on display. It shows a deep respect, not just for the dead, but also for history itself and the communities that relate to that history. So, I hope this gives you a better idea of how Shinto interacts with archaeology in Japan. Thank you very much for watching, and arigato gozaimasu. Goodbye. Thank you very much.